The emergency alarm screamed through the Galactic Council chambers on Centralis Prime. Ambassador Vel Nash of the Veltar rushed to his communications station, his blue skin turning pale as he read the incoming message. Around him, dozens of other alien representatives did the same thing. "What is it?" asked Crystar 7, the crystalline Zephyrian delegate. Her voice rang like wind chimes in the large chamber. Vel Nash's voice shook as he spoke. "Distress signal from the Keitharan colony ship, Harmony's Dream. They are in the Scorpion's teeth." A heavy silence fell over the room. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Scorpion's teeth. It was a region of space where stars died violent deaths, where gravity pulled in impossible directions, and where radiation could kill most life forms in minutes. Ships that went there usually never came back. The message played again on the main screen. A female Keitharan appeared, her gill slits fluttering with panic. Water dripped from her pale blue skin as she spoke in her liquid language. The translator made her words clear to everyone. "This is Colony Ship Harmony's Dream requesting immediate assistance. We have suffered complete engine failure near the Scorpion's teeth. Our shields are failing. We have 50,000 civilians aboard, including 20,000 younglings. We estimate 72 hours before our protection systems collapse. Please, anyone who receives this message, we need help." The transmission cut to static. Ambassador Keithara of the Keitharan Collective stood on shaking legs. Her people were known throughout the galaxy as peaceful mathematicians and artists. They lived in beautiful underwater cities, and had never hurt anyone. Now 50,000 of them were dying in the worst place in known space. "We must send rescue ships immediately," Keithara said. "My people have maybe 3 days to live." The other ambassadors looked at each other with worry and fear. Everyone wanted to help, but the Scorpion's teeth was a death trap. General Krextor of the Krex hegemony spoke first. His people were warriors who feared little in the galaxy, but even he shook his massive head. "My fleet cannot survive those conditions. The radiation alone would cook our crew in their armor. The gravitational storms would tear our ships apart. My people's vessels are made of living crystal," said Crystar 7. "The stress forces in that region would shatter us like glass dropped on stone." One by one, every major power in the galaxy found reasons why they could not mount a rescue. The Altarians said their technology was not advanced enough. The hegemony of suns claimed their ships were not fast enough. The trade guilds said it would cost too much money. Keithara listened to each excuse with growing despair. Her gill slits fluttered faster as she realized the truth. Her people were going to die alone in space, and nobody would help them. "There must be someone," she said. "Anyone. We have children aboard. Babies who have never seen their new world." The chamber fell quiet again. Outside the great windows, ships from 100 worlds moved through space around Centralis Prime. All of them had weapons and shields and faster-than-light drives. None of them would risk going to the Scorpion's teeth. Then, a new voice crackled through the communications system. The signal was weak and full of static, coming from far away. But the words were clear. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of the mining vessel Iron Resolve, operating out of Gehenna Colony. We have received your distress call. Harmony's Dream. We are changing course to assist." The chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The human delegate, Dr. James Park, stood up slowly. He had been quiet during the discussion, knowing that other species often ignored humanity's opinions. Humans were new to the galactic community and still considered primitive by many. "Did she say Gehenna?" asked Vel Nash. His voice was full of disbelief. Dr. Park nodded. "One of our frontier colonies. They mine heavy metals in extreme conditions." "That is a death world," said General Krextor. "My intelligence reports say your people live there in conditions that would kill a Krex warrior. Constant volcanic activity, crushing gravity, radiation storms. How do they survive?" Dr. Park smiled sadly. "They are tough. Gehenna colonists are some of the hardest people in human space. They have to be, or they die." The communication channel crackled again. Captain Chen's voice came through clearer this time. "Iron Resolve to Harmony's Dream. We show your position at Grid 7-7 Alpha, in the teeth. Estimated arrival time, 18 hours. Additional human vessels are being contacted. Hang tight, Friends. Help is coming. Ambassador Kithara stared at the human delegate with water streaming down her face. In her culture, these were tears of hope. Why? She asked. Your ship will face the same dangers that stopped all of us. Why would humans risk their lives for strangers? Dr. Park thought about how to explain it. How could he tell her about the humans who chose to live on worlds where everything tried to kill them? How could he describe people who saw deadly radiation as just another weather report? How could he make her understand that helping others was what humans did, even when it seemed impossible? Because you asked, he said finally. Across the galaxy, other human frontier colonies were receiving the same distress signal. On the ice world of Chimeria, where humans hunted giant beasts in permanent blizzards, 3 cargo ships prepared for immediate departure. On Vulcan's Forge, where miners worked in caves hot enough to melt metal, 2 industrial vessels loaded emergency supplies. On New Australia, where deadly animals attacked everything that moved, a military transport ship called Devil's Own began warming its engines. The planet was so dangerous that the first human settlers had to learn to fight just to collect water. Even from Earth's solar system, ships were coming. Not the clean diplomatic vessels or tourist liners, but working ships crewed by people who fixed satellites in solar storms and mined asteroids in radiation fields. In the Galactic Council chamber, the other ambassadors watched in amazement as more and more human ships reported their positions and arrival times. These were not military vessels built for war, they were mining ships, cargo haulers, and industrial craft. But their crews lived and worked in conditions that would kill most galactic citizens instantly. How many ships are responding? Asked Christar 7. Dr. Park checked his personal communicator. The list kept growing. 43 vessels confirmed so far. More are still checking in. General Krextor leaned forward. Humans truly are insane. They live on worlds we use as prisons, and now they rush towards certain death to save people they have never met. Kithara looked at each ambassador in turn, then back at the human delegate. The galaxy calls humans primitive and dangerous. They say your people come from death worlds and cannot be trusted. But when my people needed help, when everyone else found reasons to stay safe, only humans answered. She paused, watching the display screen as more human ships reported in. Perhaps we have been wrong about who the real primitives are. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Iron Resolve and watched her homeworld of Gehenna grow smaller through the rear display. Even from space, the planet looked angry. Red volcanic mountains spat fire into the toxic yellow sky. Lightning storms bigger than most moons crashed across the continents. The ocean boiled in some places where underground vents released superheated water. Beautiful morning on Gehenna, said First Officer Marcus Rodriguez. The big man grinned as he watched a massive storm system form near the equator. To him, it really was beautiful. He had grown up in the sulfur mines where that same storm would be considered light weather. Chen smiled back. Rodriguez was typical of Gehenna colonists. The crushing gravity had made him incredibly strong. The toxic air meant he could hold his breath for 20 minutes. The radiation had somehow made his immune system nearly perfect. What would kill most people only made him stronger. How long until we reach the teeth? Asked Dr. Yuki Sato from her engineering station. She was smaller than Rodriguez, but just as tough. Her parents had died in a solar flare when she was 12. Trapped in a mining station when the radiation shields failed. Instead of breaking her, the experience had made her the best shield engineer in human space. 16 hours at maximum burn, answered pilot Jake Morrison. Everyone called him Cowboy, because he flew like he was riding a wild animal. On Gehenna, where wind speeds of 200 kilometers per hour were common, gentle flying would get you killed fast. You had to wrestle the sky into submission. Chen looked at her crew with pride. These people had volunteered for a mission that every other species in the galaxy had called impossible. They did not seem worried or afraid. If anything, they looked excited. Captain, said Rodriguez, I have been thinking about the rescue plan. The Kitharans are aquatic, right? They need water to breathe? That is correct, Chen replied. Their biology requires constant moisture contact with their gill slits. No problem. We can flood Cargo Bay 3 with water from our supply tanks. Dr. Sato, can you rig life support to pump water instead of air? Sato nodded. Easy enough. I designed the backup systems to handle methane environments for Titan mining. Water will be simple. Cowboy turned from his pilot console. What about transportation? Their ship is huge. But if it is breaking apart, we might need to evacuate quickly. How do we move 50,000 people? Chen had been thinking about the same problem. We cannot do it alone. But the other human ships will help. I just received word from the Cimmerian vessels. They have ice-cutting equipment that can slice through almost anything. At that moment, her communication system activated. A new voice came through, speaking with the accent of someone from the ice worlds. Iron Resolve, this is Captain Anna Volkov aboard the icebreaker Frozen Hell. We are 3 hours behind you with 2 other vessels. We carry emergency life support pods designed for extreme cold survival. They can be modified for aquatic life forms. Good to hear from you, Frozen Hell, Chen replied. What is your ETA to the teeth? 21 hours. Fair warning, Captain. We picked up the distress signal on Cimmeria during a blizzard season. Half my crew was hunting ice bears when the call came in. They dropped everything and ran to the ships. These people are ready for a fight. Chen could imagine it. Cimmerian colonists were famous throughout human space for their toughness. They lived on a world where the average temperature was -80 degrees. They hunted creatures the size of ground cars, with nothing but rifles and determination. The joke among humans was that Cimmerians used blizzards as mild weather reports. Another transmission came in. This one from Vulcan's Forge. All ships. This is Captain David Park, aboard the industrial hauler Fire Mountain. We are carrying thermal shielding equipment and portable atmospheric processors. Our ETA is 19 hours. Chen knew about Vulcan's Forge. It was a mining world built around a system of supervolcanoes. The colonists there worked in tunnels where the air was hot enough to cook meat instantly. They mined rare metals from the heart of active lava flows. What most people called hell, they called Tuesday. Fire Mountain, good to hear your voice. What kind of thermal protection are you bringing? The good stuff, Iron Resolve. We have portable heat shields rated for direct lava exposure. If the radiation in the teeth gets too intense, we can use them to create safe zones around the Keitharan ship. More and more ships checked in throughout the day. From New Australia came the military transport Devil's Own, crewed by people who had learned to fight for survival every single day of their lives. Their world was covered with creatures that existed only to kill anything that moved. The colonists had become so good at fighting that other humans hired them as security specialists. Chen received a personal message from the Devil's Own's captain. Lisa Walsh, Sarah. My crew includes 20 former military specialists and 40 hunters. We have weapons, medical supplies, and enough determination to arm wrestle a star into submission. Whatever is in the teeth, we will handle it. Even Earth's solar system was sending help. Ships that worked in the radiation fields around Jupiter were loading up with emergency supplies. Asteroid miners who spent months in hard vacuum were preparing for immediate departure. Chen realized something amazing was happening. The human response was not just about one mining ship trying to help, it was about every human colony that had ever faced impossible conditions, deciding that impossible was just another word for Tuesday. Dr. Sato looked up from her engineering console with a grin. Captain, I have been monitoring galactic news feeds. Do you know what other species are calling this rescue mission? What? Chen asked. Operation Hellworld. They think we are all insane for attempting it. Rodriguez laughed. Insane? This is just Tuesday for us. Wait until they see what we do when things get really difficult, Cowboy called out from the pilot station. Captain, we are receiving a transmission from the Keitharan ship. They want to thank us for coming. Put it through, Chen ordered. The image of the Keitharan captain appeared on the main screen. The alien female looked exhausted and frightened. But hope flickered in her large eyes. Human vessels, this is Captain Silara of the Harmony's Dream. We have monitored your communications. We do not understand why you risk your lives for strangers. Our ships cannot survive where yours travel daily. Our people cannot live where yours call home, yet you come to save us when no one else will. Chen stepped forward. Captain Silara, we come because you need help. That is what people do for each other, but the conditions in the teeth will kill most life forms. How can you survive what destroys our technology? Chen looked at her crew, then back at the alien captain. We live on worlds that try to kill us every day. We mine in lava flows, hunt in blizzards, and raise families in radiation storms. The scorpion's teeth is dangerous, but dangerous is where we live. Silara was quiet for a long moment. You speak as if living in death is normal. For humans, it is. We do not seek out danger, but we do not run from it either. When someone needs help, we help. When something needs doing, we do it. That is simply who we are. Your species is remarkable, Silara said. The galaxy fears humans because they say you come from death worlds. But perhaps they should fear you because you choose to help instead of choosing to conquer. Chen smiled. Captain, we will reach your position in 14 hours. Keep your people alive. We are coming. And we do not leave anyone behind. As the transmission ended, Chen looked around her bridge at the crew preparing for an impossible rescue mission. Outside, 43 other human ships were racing through space toward the most dangerous region in the galaxy. They were miners, haulers, hunters, and fighters. They came from worlds that would kill most people, just for visiting. They had volunteered for a mission that every expert said was suicide. They called it Tuesday. The Iron Resolve dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Scorpion's teeth, and Captain Sarah Chen felt her breath catch in her throat. She had seen dangerous space before, but this was something else entirely. Massive stars spun wildly in their death throes, throwing radiation and plasma across millions of kilometers. Rogue planets drifted between the stars like deadly ghosts, their gravity fields creating invisible mazes that could tear a ship apart. Space itself seemed twisted and angry here, painted in colors that hurt to look at. Well, said Cowboy Morrison from the pilot seat, this is definitely not Kansas. Radiation levels are off the charts, reported Dr. Sato, from her engineering station. We are looking at exposure rates that would cook most species in under an hour. And for us? Asked Chen. Sato shrugged. About the same as a moderate solar storm back home. Our shields can handle it. But we should probably avoid sunbathing on the outer decks. Rodriguez pointed at the navigation display. There, Captain. 2 degrees port, distance 4 million kilometers. That has to be the Harmony's dream. Chen looked where he pointed and felt her heart sink. The Keitharan colony ship hung in space like a dying whale. The beautiful organic curves that made their ship so elegant were now twisted and broken. Parts of the hull glowed with radiation burns. Atmosphere leaked from dozens of hull breaches, forming crystal clouds in the vacuum. My God, whispered Chen. How are they still alive in that thing? Barely, said Sato, studying her sensors. Their bioorganic hull is literally dying. The radiation is killing the living metal that forms their ship structure. Their shields are operating at 12% power and failing fast. Cowboy started plotting an approach course. Navigation is going to be tricky, Captain. The gravity fields here change faster than I can compensate. It is like trying to fly through a tornado made of invisible hands. Can you do it? Chen asked. Morrison grinned. Captain, I learned to fly on Gehenna during volcanic storm season. Compared to dodging lava bombs in hurricane-force winds, while the ground shakes apart under you, this is just exciting. Chen activated the communication system. Harmony's dream. This is Iron Resolve. We have visual contact with your vessel. Please respond. The reply came immediately, weak but clear. Iron Resolve. This is Captain Silara. We are so grateful to see you. Our situation has worsened since our last transmission. Hull integrity is failing faster than expected. We estimate 6 hours before critical systems collapse. Understood, Harmony's dream. We are beginning approach now. Additional human vessels will arrive within the hour. As Chen spoke, her sensors detected new ships dropping out of hyperspace. The icebreaker Frozen Hell appeared first, followed by 2 other Cimmerian vessels. Their ships looked like they had been built to ram through asteroid fields, which they probably had been. Minutes later, the Fire Mountain and its escort ships from Vulcan's Forge materialized. Even in the twisted light of the teeth, Chen could see their heavy thermal armor glowing with internal heat management systems. All vessels. This is Iron Resolve. Welcome to the neighborhood. As you can see, our friends are in bad shape. Ideas? Captain Volkov's voice crackled through from frozen hell. Sarah, my ice-cutting equipment can slice through anything organic. We can cut evacuation holes in their hull if needed, but getting close enough might be problematic. How so? The gravity shears around that ship would crush normal vessels. The Catharans built their ship to flex with changing forces, but rigid ships like ours. Volkov paused. We would be squeezed like empty tubes. Captain Park from Fire Mountain spoke up. That is where we come in. We can use our thermal shields to create a stable work zone. Our equipment is designed to function in gravitational fields strong enough to compress carbon into diamonds. Chen watched the tactical display as her fellow humans began working the problem. Where other species had seen impossible obstacles, her people saw engineering challenges with creative solutions. Rodriguez, take a team and prep the emergency life support pods. Morrison, I want you to plot the safest approach route you can manage. Sato, start working on a way to stabilize their failing shields. Already on it, Captain, Sato replied. I am thinking we can use our mining laser array as a power transfer beam. We pump energy directly into their shield grid. Rodriguez looked up from his tactical station. Captain, I have been studying the Kitharan ship structure. Their people are spread throughout the vessel, but the highest concentration is in the lower sections, where their water recycling systems are located. Makes sense? They would stay close to their life support. The problem is, that section is taking the worst damage from radiation exposure. Their biohull is dying fastest there. Chen frowned. Options? We go in and get them, Rodriguez said simply. Use our environmental suits and start carrying people out manually if we have to. Dr. Sato looked up from her console with alarm. Marcus, the radiation in there would kill most humans in minutes. Even with full protective gear, Rodriguez smiled. Yuki, I spent 10 years mining uranium on Gehenna. 10 minutes ago you said the radiation here was like a moderate solar storm at home. I have worked through solar storms that would sterilize small moons. Chen realized he was right. Her crew had grown up in conditions that would be instantly lethal to most galactic species. What seemed impossible to others was just another day at work for them. Iron resolve to all human vessels. She announced. We are going to attempt direct contact with the Kitharan ship. Teams will board and begin manual evacuation of civilians. Expect high radiation, unstable gravity, and structural collapse. Captain Walsh's voice came through from Devil's Own. Sarah, my people live for this kind of challenge. We are launching boarding shuttles now. Across the small human fleet, similar preparations were beginning. Ice miners who spent their lives working in conditions that would freeze most blood solid. Thermal specialists who walked through temperatures that would melt lead. Hunters who fought for survival as a daily routine. All of them were volunteering to board a dying alien ship in the most dangerous region of space to save people they had never met. Cowboy Morrison called out from his pilot station. Captain, I have a course plotted. It is going to be bumpy, but I can get us close enough for boarding operations. Chen strapped herself into her command chair. All hands, prepare for approach. We are going into the teeth. The iron resolve began moving toward the Harmony's dream, and immediately Chen understood why other species had called this mission impossible. The gravity fields hit them like invisible fists, trying to stretch the ship in 3 directions at once. Warning alarms screamed as radiation levels spiked beyond anything normal ships could survive. But Morrison flew like he was dancing with a partner he had known all his life. Every time the gravity tried to crush them, he rolled with it. When radiation storms threatened to overwhelm their shields, he found pockets of clear space that existed for only seconds. This is actually kind of fun, Morrison said through gritted teeth as he fought the controls. Like flying through a hurricane while someone shoots lightning at you. You have a strange definition of fun, cowboy, Chen replied. Around them, the other human ships were making their own approaches. Chen watched in amazement as Captain Volkov threaded her massive icebreaker through gravity fields that should have flattened it. The ship moved like it was sliding on ice, which Chen realized it probably was in Volkov's mind. Fire Mountain and its escorts created a formation that reminded Chen of mining platforms working around an active volcano. They moved with the calm efficiency of people who dealt with hostile environments for a living. Range to target, 500 kilometers and closing, reported Rodriguez. Their hull is definitely failing faster now. I can see atmosphere venting from multiple breaches. Chen opened a channel to the Kitharan ship. Harmony's Dream. We are beginning approach for boarding operations. Please direct your people to the safest areas of your ship. Captain Silara's image appeared on the screen. Behind her, Chen could see other Kitharans moving through flooded corridors with obvious panic. But Silara herself remained calm. Iron resolve. We are grateful beyond words. But you must understand. The conditions inside our ship are lethal to most life forms. High radiation, unstable gravity, and our ship is literally dissolving around us. Chen looked at her crew. Rodriguez was checking his environmental suit, with the calm expression of someone about to take a walk in his backyard. Morrison was plotting boarding vectors like he was planning a Sunday afternoon flight. Sato was calibrating her equipment with the focused attention she gave to any engineering problem. Captain Silara, Chen said, we appreciate the warning, but we are humans from the death worlds. Lethal conditions are where we live. The boarding operation began with controlled chaos. Rodriguez led the first team through the airlock between the Iron Resolve and the dying Kitharan ship. The moment he stepped inside the Harmony's Dream, alarms on his environmental suit started screaming warnings. Radiation levels critical, announced his suit's computer voice. Exposure time limited to 8 minutes for safety. Rodriguez looked at his readings and laughed. 8 minutes? Computer. Reset safety parameters for Gehenna mining operations. Warning. Gehenna mining parameters exceed galactic safety standards by 400%. Just do it, Rodriguez said. The alarm stopped. To someone who had spent years mining radioactive metals in volcanic caves, the inside of the Kitharan ship was actually quite pleasant. Behind him, Dr. Sato and 2 other crew members followed. Their suits showed similar radiation warnings, but none of them seemed concerned. They moved through the organic corridors of the alien ship like they were walking through their own home. The Kitharan ship was beautiful, even while dying. The walls curved like the inside of a seashell. Glowing with soft bioluminescent light, water flowed along channels in the floor and walls, creating a gentle sound like a peaceful stream. But now the glow was fading, and the water was tinged with the sickly green of radiation poisoning. This way, said a Kitharan voice. A male alien appeared around a curved corner, his gill slits fluttering with fear and hope. I am Healer Vorash. Captain Silara sent me to guide you to our people. Rodriguez looked down at the alien, who barely reached his waist. Vorash was typical of his species. Gentle, fragile, and completely out of place in this hostile environment. How are your people holding up? Rodriguez asked as they followed the alien deeper into the ship. Not well. The radiation is making many sick. The children are suffering the most. And our ship? Vorash gestured at the walls around them. She is dying. The biometal that forms our hull is being poisoned by the energies here. Soon, the structure will collapse entirely. They reached a large chamber filled with hundreds of Kitharans. Adults clustered around groups of younglings, trying to shield them with their own bodies. The water here was deeper, reaching Rodriguez's ankles, and many of the aliens were submerged up to their necks. Rodriguez activated his communicator. Iron Resolve, this is boarding team 1. I count approximately 400 civilians in the primary refuge area. They are in bad shape but alive. Dr. Sato was already scanning the area with her equipment. The biometal structure here is failing fast. I estimate 20 minutes before this section collapses. Can we evacuate that many people in 20 minutes? Rodriguez asked. Before Sato could answer, a new voice spoke up. It came from near Rodriguez's feet, and he looked down to see a young Kitharan child, probably no older than 10 Earth years. The youngster was speaking in broken standard language. Excuse me, Death World person, but why are you here? Rodriguez knelt down to bring himself closer to the child's level. Even kneeling, he was still taller than most adult Kitharans. We are here to help you and your people, he said gently. The child's large eyes widened. But Healer Vorash says the radiation here kills most people quickly. And Teacher Melandra says humans come from worlds where everything dies. Why do you risk death for strangers? Rodriguez thought about how to answer. How could he explain to a child that what seemed deadly to her was normal to him? How could he make her understand that helping others was just what humans did? Because you asked for help, he said finally. And because you are not strangers. You are people who need help, and that makes you our responsibility. The young Keitharan looked confused. But we cannot help you in return. We are not strong like humans. We cannot survive on death worlds or fight in radiation storms. Rodriguez smiled behind his helmet visor. You do not need to be strong like us. You are smart like you. Your people are mathematicians and artists and healers. The galaxy is better because you are in it. But why does that matter to humans? Because, Rodriguez said, strength is only useful if you use it to protect people who cannot protect themselves. At that moment, a deep groaning sound echoed through the chamber. The biometal walls flickered, their bioluminescent glow fading even more. Several Keitharan adults cried out in fear as the floor beneath them shifted. Structural failure accelerating, Dr. Sato announced. We need to move these people now. Rodriguez stood and activated his communicator. All teams, priority evacuation in progress. We have maybe 15 minutes before this section collapses. Prom. Throughout the dying ship, human rescue teams were working with desperate efficiency. Captain Volkov's people had used their ice-cutting equipment to slice evacuation holes directly through the ship's hull. The Chimerians worked in teams, carrying Keitharan civilians through passages that would have crushed most beings under their own weight. From Vulcan's forge, Captain Park's thermal specialists had created protective bubbles using their heat shields, forming safe zones where the worst radiation was blocked. They worked calmly in temperatures that would have cooked most life forms, treating the lethal environment like a minor inconvenience. The Devil's Own crew from New Australia moved through the ship like they were hunting dangerous predators, which in a way they were. They hunted structural weaknesses and radiation hotspots, clearing safe paths for the evacuation teams, but it was not enough. Even with all their efforts, there were simply too many Keitharans spread throughout, too large a ship, and time was running out. That was when 12-year-old Tommy Chen, Captain Chen's son who had somehow managed to stow away on the Iron Resolve, came up with an idea that would become legend throughout the galaxy. Tommy had been monitoring the rescue communications from his hiding spot in a supply closet. When he heard that the evacuation was falling behind schedule, he did what any human child would do when adults were in trouble. He tried to help. Using the ship's internal communication system, Tommy began broadcasting to the Keitharan ship on all frequencies. But instead of speaking to the adults, he spoke directly to the Keitharan children. Hi, he said in careful, simple words. My name is Tommy. I am a human kid. And my mom is Captain Chen. We are here to help you. Throughout the Harmony's dream, young Keitharans heard a voice their own age speaking to them. In their culture, children were often ignored during emergencies, while adults made all the decisions. But this human child was talking to them like they mattered. I know you are scared, Tommy continued. But the human adults are really good at keeping people safe. They do it all the time on our world. Can you help them by doing something really brave? The response was immediate. Young Keitharan voices began answering from all over the ship. What do you need us to do? Asked one. Are you really a human child? Asked another. But humans live on death worlds. How are you not dead? Tommy giggled, which somehow made his voice even more reassuring. Death worlds are just regular worlds if you grow up there. Like, I have pet lizards that breathe fire, but they are really nice if you feed them properly. Dr. Sato, monitoring the communications, looked at Rodriguez with amazement. The kid is getting the children to calm down and follow simple instructions. Evacuation efficiency just jumped by 30%. Right. I'm ended. Tommy continued talking to the Keitharan younglings, explaining what was happening and asking them to help guide the adult Keitharans to evacuation points. He spoke to them like they were partners in the rescue operation, not just victims to be saved. The radiation here is really high, said one young Keitharan. Will it hurt you? Nah, Tommy replied. This is way less radiation than we get during storm season at home. My dad says, radiation builds character. Rodriguez shook his head in amazement. Only a human child would think deadly radiation was a character-building exercise. The evacuation operation transformed. With the young Keitharans helping to organize and guide their people, the rescue teams could work much more efficiently. Families stayed together, evacuation routes became clearer, and panic decreased significantly. But the greatest moment came when the young Keitharan who had first spoken to Rodriguez approached him again as he carried a group of adults to safety. "Human Rodriguez," the child said, "I understand now why your people answered our call." "Oh? Why is that?" "Because you are not really Death World people. You are Life World people who happen to live in places where others would die. There is a difference." Rodriguez stopped walking and looked down at the child. In that moment, he realized that this young alien had understood something about humanity that many adults in the galaxy missed entirely. "What is the difference?" he asked. "Death World people would let others die to save themselves. Life World people save others, even when it means they might die. You chose to live on dangerous worlds, not because you love danger, but because you love life enough to live it anywhere." Rodriguez felt something tight in his chest. Around him, his fellow humans continued their work, carrying alien civilians to safety through conditions that should have killed everyone involved. "Yeah, kid," he said softly. "I think you got it exactly right." Captain Sarah Chen was coordinating the final evacuation groups when Dr. Sato's panicked voice cut through all other communications. "Captain, emergency situation. The star at grid position 12 Alpha is going supernova." Chen spun to look at the navigation display, and her blood went cold. A massive star that had been merely unstable was now collapsing in on itself. In minutes, it would explode with the force of 1 billion nuclear weapons, sending a shockwave of radiation and plasma racing across the scorpion's teeth. "How long do we have?" Chen asked. 8 minutes until the shockwave reaches us, Sato replied. "The radiation levels will be 50 times higher than current readings." Around the bridge, Chen's crew went silent. Even for humans from Gehenna, that much radiation would be instantly lethal. No shield technology in the galaxy could protect against a supernova at close range. "All human vessels, this is Iron Resolve," Chen announced. "We have a problem." Captain Volkov's voice came back immediately. "We see it, Sarah. That star is about to turn this entire region into a killing field." "How many Keitharans are still aboard their ship?" Chen asked. Rodriguez's voice crackled through from the Harmony's dream. "Approximately 8,000 civilians in the lower sections. We cannot evacuate them all in 8 minutes." Chen closed her eyes for a moment. Every military manual in human space would tell her to abandon the remaining aliens and save her own people. Any reasonable commander would retreat immediately and accept that some lives could not be saved. But Chen was not just any commander. She was a human from Gehenna, where giving up was not an option, and impossible was just another word for difficult. "All vessels, we are not leaving," she announced. "Begin emergency protocols for supernova survival." "Sarah," came Captain Park's concerned voice from Fire Mountain. "There are no protocols for supernova survival. The radiation will kill everything in this sector." "Then we make our own protocols," Chen replied. "Ideas?" For a moment, nobody spoke. Then Cowboy Morrison looked up from his pilot station with a crazy grin. "Captain, I have been studying the gravity patterns around that dying star. The supernova is going to create a massive gravitational shockwave along with the radiation. That makes it worse, not better." "Cowboy, maybe not. What if we use the shockwave itself? Surf the supernova blast like riding a wave?" Dr. Sato stared at him. "That is completely insane. The forces involved would tear our ships apart." "Not if we do it right," Morrison insisted. "Look at the gravity maps. The shockwave will create a corridor of space where the gravitational forces actually cancel each other out. If we can position ourselves exactly right, we could ride the blast wave like a slingshot." Chen studied the navigation displays. Morrison was right. The supernova would create a brief moment when the chaotic gravity fields of the scorpion's teeth would align into something resembling order. It would last maybe 30 seconds. But that might be enough. "How do we protect against the radiation?" she asked. Captain Park's voice came through from Fire Mountain. "My thermal shields can be reconfigured as radiation barriers. If we link all our ships together and create an overlapping shield network, we might be able to create a pocket of survivable space." "How big a pocket?" Chen asked. "Big enough for the Keitharan ship." "Barely." Chen realized what they were proposing. They would use the supernova itself as a propulsion system, riding its shockwave while using their combined shields to protect everyone. It was completely impossible by every law of physics and engineering she knew. It was also exactly the kind of impossible thing humans specialized in making work. All vessels, prepare for emergency linkage, Chen ordered. We are going to surf a supernova. Take her, on the Marne. Throughout the small human fleet, crews began connecting their ships with emergency cables and power links. The Cimmerian icebreakers positioned themselves as anchor points. The thermal specialists from Vulcan's Forge began reconfiguring their heat shields into radiation barriers. The Devil's Own took position as escort, ready to handle any problems that arose. Meanwhile, on the Harmony's Dream, the final evacuation was proceeding with desperate speed. But Rodriguez realized they would never get everyone out in time. Iron resolve. This is boarding team leader, he announced. We cannot evacuate the remaining civilians fast enough. I am staying aboard the Kitharan ship to coordinate emergency survival procedures. Marcus, no, Chen said immediately. That ship will not survive the supernova blast. Then we make sure it does, Rodriguez replied. The Kitharan biometal hull is flexible. Maybe flexible enough to survive what would destroy our rigid ships. Dr. Sato suddenly looked up from her engineering station. Marcus might be right. The organic structure could absorb impact forces that would shatter normal materials. If we can reinforce the failing biometal with our own shield generators, do it, Chen ordered. Sato began working frantically at her controls. I am rerouting power from our shields to create a reinforcement field around the Kitharan ship. It will leave us completely vulnerable. But it might keep their ship together. 6 minutes to supernova, announced Morrison. In the depths of the Harmony's Dream, Rodriguez was working alongside Kitharan crew members to strengthen their failing ship. Using portable shield generators from the human vessels, they created support points throughout the ship's structure. Young Tommy Chen, still hidden in his supply closet but monitoring everything, suddenly spoke up on the communications channel. Mom, I have an idea. Tommy, how did you get on this ship? Chen demanded. I stowed away. But listen, what if we do not try to fight the supernova? What if we help it instead? What do you mean? The Kitharan ship is organic, right? Living metal that grows and changes. What if the radiation does not kill it but makes it stronger? Like how radiation makes some things mutate and evolve. Doctor, Sato paused in her work. That is, actually, not completely impossible. If we could modify the radiation exposure pattern, turn destructive energy into constructive energy. 3 minutes to supernova, Morrison announced. Chen made a decision that would be talked about in military academies for centuries. All vessels. Begin implementation of the Chen maneuver. The what now? Asked Captain Volkov. We are going to help an alien ship evolve in real time using supernova radiation while surfing the blast wave to safety. Any questions? Just one, came Captain Walsh's voice from Devil's Own. When this works, who gets to name it in the history books? 2 minutes, Morrison announced. The human ships formed a protective formation around the dying Kitharan vessel. Dr. Sato's modifications turned their defensive shields into radiation, focusing arrays. Designed to channel the supernova's energy in specific patterns. Meanwhile, Rodriguez and his team worked inside the alien ship, using human technology to guide the biometal's response to radiation exposure. 1 minute. All vessels, prepare for supernova surfing in 60 seconds. Captain Silara's voice came through from the Harmony's Dream. Human vessels, we want you to know that regardless of what happens, the Kitharan people will never forget your courage. You have shown us what true civilization means. Chen smiled grimly. Captain, we are not done yet. Hold on to something solid. 30 seconds, Morrison announced. Gravitational shockwave forming. Radiation levels climbing beyond all measurement. Tommy's voice came through one last time. Hey, Kitharan kids. This is going to be really loud and bright, but do not worry. Human grown-ups are really good at impossible things. 10 seconds, Morrison said. Here comes the biggest wave in galactic history. The supernova exploded. The shockwave hit the human fleet like the fist of an angry god. Ships designed to withstand volcanic explosions were tossed around like toys. Radiation levels climbed to numbers that should have sterilized everything for light years in every direction. But Morrison had calculated correctly. The gravitational forces created a brief corridor of stable space, and the human ships rode the blast wave like surfers on an impossible ocean. Their combined shields channeled the deadly radiation into precise patterns that somehow, incredibly, began healing the Keitharan ship instead of destroying it. The biometal hull of the Harmony's Dream glowed with new life as the radiation triggered rapid evolutionary responses. Instead of dying, the living metal began growing stronger, adapting in real time to the hostile environment. For 30 seconds that felt like hours, the entire rescue fleet surfed the edge of a supernova while guiding an alien ship through forced evolution. Then, suddenly, they were through. The blast wave carried them clear of the Scorpion's teeth, depositing them in normal space where the stars were stable and the radiation levels were merely dangerous instead of impossible. Chen looked around her bridge. Every single human ship had survived. The Keitharan vessel, now glowing with healthy bioluminescence, was not only intact but stronger than before. All 50,000 civilians were alive and safe. All vessels. Report status, Chen ordered. One by one, the human ships checked in. Minor damage. Exhausted crews. But everyone was alive. Even Rodriguez and his boarding teams had survived the supernova ride inside the alien ship. Captain Silara appeared on the communication screen, and Chen could see that the Keitharan captain was crying. In her species, tears were not signs of sadness but of overwhelming gratitude. Human fleet, what you have done is impossible by every law of physics and logic. You took a dying ship and an extinct star and turned them into tools of salvation. How do we thank you for giving us our lives? Chen looked around at her crew. Then, at the other human ships on her display. Miners from Gehenna. Ice hunters from Chimeria. Thermal workers from Vulcan's Forge. Fighters from New Australia. They had volunteered for certain death to save strangers, and somehow they had made the impossible look routine. Captain Silara, you do not need to thank us. This is just what people do for each other. 3 days later, back in the Galactic Council chambers on Centralis Prime, the story of the Scorpion's Teeth rescue was being told to shocked representatives from across the galaxy. The human delegate, Dr. James Park, stood at the center podium, surrounded by displays showing the impossible rescue operation. The final count was 50,000 Keitharan civilians saved, 0 casualties among rescue personnel, and 1 colony ship not just repaired, but evolutionarily enhanced. Dr. Park reported. Ambassador Velnash of the Veltar spoke first. Dr. Park, we have reviewed the sensor data from this operation. What your people accomplished violates several fundamental laws of physics. Dr. Park shrugged. Physics is more like guidelines anyway. Humans have never been very good at accepting impossible. General Krextor leaned forward. Your people used a supernova as a propulsion system. They turned deadly radiation into a healing tool. They saved lives in conditions that should have killed everyone involved. This changes everything we thought we knew about humans. How so? Dr. Park asked. We thought humans were dangerous because they came from death worlds and had violent tendencies. We were wrong. Humans are dangerous because they refuse to accept that anything is truly impossible. And they consider helping others to be more important than their own safety. Kristar 7 spoke up, her crystalline voice ringing through the chamber. Dr. Park, the Galactic Council has been monitoring human expansion for years. We have been concerned about your species' rapid spread to worlds we consider uninhabitable. Now we understand why you choose those worlds. Please explain. You do not choose dangerous worlds because you love danger. You choose them because someone needs to live there. Someone needs to mine those resources or explore those regions, or simply prove that life can exist anywhere. You are not conquerors or destroyers. You are, she paused, searching for the right words. Yes? Dr. Park prompted. You are gardeners. You plant life in places where life should not be able to grow. And then you tend it until it thrives. Ambassador Keithara spoke last. Her people had established their new colony successfully, and the enhanced biometal from their evolved ship was already being studied by scientists across the galaxy. Dr. Park, the galaxy has spent centuries debating what defines true civilization. We have argued about technology levels, peaceful intentions, artistic achievement, and scientific advancement. But I think your species has shown us the real answer, which is, true civilization is measured not by what you can achieve for yourself, but by what you are willing to sacrifice for others. And by that measure, humans are the most civilized species in the galaxy. Dr. Park smiled as he looked around the chamber at representatives from dozens of worlds. Thank you, Ambassador. But I think you are missing the point. How so? We did not save the Ketherans because we are more civilized than anyone else. We saved them because they needed saving, and we happened to be the ones who could help. Any of your species would have done the same thing if they had been able. The chamber fell silent as the alien representatives considered this. Finally, Velnash spoke. Dr. Park, you truly believe that? Of course. The only difference between humans and everyone else is that we happen to live in places where impossible is just another word for Tuesday. That does not make us better than you. It just makes us useful when impossible things need doing. Dr. Park gathered his materials and prepared to leave the podium. Besides, now that everyone knows it can be done, I bet other species will start figuring out how to do impossible things too. That is how civilization really advances. One impossible rescue at a time. As he walked away, the gathered representatives began talking among themselves. Throughout the galaxy, the story of the scorpion's teeth rescue was spreading. Other species were looking at their own capabilities with new eyes, wondering what impossible things they might be able to accomplish if they tried. But in the human colonies, life continued as normal. On Gehenna, miners went back to work in the lava flows. On Chimeria, hunters tracked ice bears through eternal blizzards. On Vulcan's forge, thermal specialists descended into molten caverns, and if anyone asked them about surfing supernovas or turning radiation into healing energy, they would just shrug and say it was Tuesday. Because for humans, impossible was never really impossible. It was just another day's work.